I'm going to make a corporate decision and call the meeting to order because my clock on the screen says 7 o'clock and that says 6:59, so I've waited 30 seconds, so I'm halfway between the two. I'd remind members from the public who are here this evening if you could put your cellular devices on an inaudible mode so as not to disturb the meeting, and the same for members of council as well. Can we have approval of the agenda? Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd like to add an item to the agenda, discussion on the GTA West corridor announcement.
Mr. Clerk or Madam Clerk, is that 9.1? Okay. Okay, with that addition, Councillor Palashi, would you move approval of the agenda?
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. I do want to, just before we move into the consent, I'm sure that many people are asking why we're having a meeting tonight when there's little of nothing on the agenda. There was a deliberate attempt to keep the agenda short this evening because we were expecting a statutory public meeting that was going to be somewhat controversial, perhaps. But that application was held back and is currently going to be held in abeyance until the applicant wants to bring it forward. So there was a sense that the statutory public meeting was going to be a long evening with that application, but with the withdrawing or the withholding of that application, we ended up with a very short agenda. So, Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not trying to make it long at all. I just, I wanted to ask about your question or your statement on the applicant decided to hold it back. It's the application, it is in abeyance, but is it still the applicant? Because the applicant no longer...
Through the chair, the applicant advised us that they were renegotiating some elements of ownership and asked us to hold the plan in abeyance at this point. That was their request to us.
And who was the applicant?
It's Partac Development, which is also known as Paradise Homes.
Is that on behalf of the owner of the property? It's my understanding that they no longer own the property.
The applicant is not always necessarily the owner of the property, and in this case, the applicant and the owner were two separate entities.
That's what I just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll move now to the consent agenda. There are 2 items in consent. Someone like to move it? Councillor Bowman? All in favor? That's carried. There's no statutory public meeting, no delegations, no staff presentations. 7.1 is in consent. 7.2 is not in consent. Are there any questions on 7.2? Seeing none. Councillor Frattini, it's in your area. Would you like to move that? All those in favor? That's carried. The minutes for the Cycling Advisory Committee are in consent. The next item is 9.1. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I'll be really quick.
Please don't leave.
No,
We'll be
I'm
finished
staying right
really
here.
shortly.
GTA West Corridor. Who wants it? There's a recent announcement on the GTA West Corridor. Status updates, any information you can provide.
Certainly, through the chair, on Friday at about 1 o'clock, we were advised by the provincial government that they had made a decision on stopping the EA study for the routes that were contemplated. And as you are certainly aware, this affects the west end of Brampton and up into Caledon in terms of a corridor alignment. At the same time, what they announced was a new alignment for what they call a GTA study area. The alignment on the mapping that we have, which unfortunately is not very detailed, and we've been requesting a little bit more refined mapping, it shows a new study area to which they want to go back to a new planning study. which would require about 9 to 12 months worth of studying in terms of what this particular route would accommodate, and then that would initiate an EA. It's not clear to us at this point if the intention is to build any kind of road network in that study area. So we've reached out to the ministry. Staff have also reached out to the Region Appeal about alternatives. One of the ideas that has been on the table as this has been contemplated and delayed is that this could potentially be serviced through a regional arterial road. So we are reaching out to the region, we're reaching out to the ministry to get further details. This corridor could be anything from electricity to high order transit. It's not known to us at this point.
Okay, is there a timeline on when you think you'll be coming back to council with any kind of updates?
Through the chair, we are hoping by Wednesday at council we'll have a little bit more info to share with council. And after that, as soon as it becomes available, we will share it.
Okay. Then just a couple questions as to the announcement. I guess some of the information that Brampton had done in previous councils, I don't think all of council was ever privy to that information or those reports that came to council. Is there an opportunity where we can have kind of a summary on what we had, what studies we had done, what those studies typically said, and then can we get any comments as to if you do look on the map, they've really taken away a large portion of the protected area that was really close to Osmington, the Osmington site, and I worry about if that jeopardizes the Osmington site. I know that Heritage Road is still on the, if they wanted to put it up Heritage Road, like I would be okay with that. I think. I can see that that would be a greater cost, and I think our studies had once said something about the environmental risks if you didn't put it anywhere other than close to those Osmington lands, which are the future of the employment area in Northwest Brampton.
So through the chair, not likely by Wednesday, but as we do report back with more information, we'll be sure to include the fulsome history of the EA alignments and those proximities to those sensitive uses as well. One of the challenges we certainly have at this point is getting a better understanding about that, whether or not this is simply a conceptual alignment, or is this in fact some kind of a detailed alignment? Again, that would certainly influence that moving forward.
Oh, okay, all right. And then just to let you know, I did have the discussion at the region last Thursday, a day prior to them requesting that they announce. I didn't really think that they were listening, but they had said at the region that there are discussions currently going on with the City of Brampton, Town of Caledon, Halton Hills, and there were kind of progression in having more discussions with what to do in the GTA West Corridor. So I'm glad those discussions are happening. I'm glad the region has come out and said that they're wanting to have those discussions and what you've said here today. Thank you.
Okay,
Chair?
thank you.
Chair. In fact, this morning I met with the CAO of Caledon and CAO of the region on this topic. So, we'll keep council up to date, but we're working together.
What happened in the discussion?
Well, just, the same thing. And we're even uncertain whether it's a road or not at this point. The region, David Spork is in the same boat. And as you know, at the region, they've only collected enough DCs to maybe do one exchange. So we've really got to dig into this together. I think together we're stronger with Caledon.
And what's the future for, if it's not going to be the 400 series highway, then, what does that do for our employment land out there? The future hospital, third hospital is going out there.
Yeah, we're going to.
I think there's more questions now than there were before,
Yes.
Is there not?
It's a full court press, though, with the region and Caledon. It affects us all.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam.
And Hamilton and Niagara, too.
Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, I guess we don't have enough information at this point. Will you guys be coming back to us in approximately when? Was it? That's what he said?
So through the chair, we're hoping by Wednesday we'll have a little bit more information. I don't expect to have fulsome answers to a lot of our questions by Wednesday, but hopefully at that time through the government relations update, we can share a little bit more insight about what the ministry is thinking.
So, was staff essentially kind of blindsided by this? So there's never been any, it's probably very premature, but there's no idea of what we would like to see if there's nothing happening, or we have to wait for, is it entirely in the province's hand what comes into this corridor?
Through the chair, this was a bit of a surprise in terms of the alignment that's been identified. And again, whether it's conceptual or not, I'm not sure. It's narrower. Previously, they were studying 3 different routes, and that was going through the environmental assessment. At this point, they're going to narrow that down and do a new planning study on this new route. It's not clear through their announcement if it is, in fact, even a transportation network in terms of a paved kind of road network. It could be a higher order transit. It could be an electricity corridor. It could be a new wave of what was once known as the Parkway Belt West plan. It's just not clear to us at this point.
Yeah, I guess it's disappointing for some people. I guess there's been a lot of work. I was speaking to one of the planners who came from Metrolinx, and he had indicated that sometimes they go months or years even working on things, and for no reason at all, things get axed. So I think it's just another one of those. So, but I look forward to you guys coming back. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. There is nothing else on the agenda. I am going to take this opportunity to do what I probably should have done at the beginning of the agenda before I asked our new employee to take a seat. And so I'll ask at this time, Commissioner Elliott, if you could introduce.
Not so new, but for the first time in Planning Committee in some time is Stephen Dykstra with us from the Planning
Oh, is that?
Development.
Oh, my goodness. I am so sorry. I said to Peter, who's that guy sitting? Is that our new fellow from the city of Mississauga?
Yeah.
He's only got the one suit.
Well, I've certainly seen the name on reports. Now I can put the name with the face and the name together.
We'll
So
be sure to get about here more often.
sorry. He probably thought he was in trouble when I told him to, please don't go.
Yeah.
Please don't go. Thank you. We'll move down now to councillor question period. Are there any questions from members of council? Seeing none. Public question period. Are there any questions from members of the public here today? Seeing none. Those 3 magic words. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Dillon. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'm sorry.